This car has come a long way. When we first got it, it looked like a beaten up, neglected daily driver, and now it looks like the sporty Honda Accord it was always meant to be. We cleaned up the paint and the bodywork, completely redid the interior, fabricated a custom exhaust for it, completely redid the suspension, and installed BC Racing coilovers and aftermarket control arms, put these awesome Koenig wheels and Tire Street tires on, and finally, we put a big brake kit on it. Now there's one last thing we have to do before this thing is ready to be beaten on the track and get almost double the horsepower with some sort of forced induction. Pretty much an entirely new drivetrain. Now, according to the previous owner, which was the only other owner of this car, it still has the original clutch in it, and it's got 190,000 miles on it. I don't know if I believe that. Maybe they just forgot that they put a clutch in it, but either way, this clutch is very near the end of its life, and it absolutely cannot handle any more horsepower, that's for sure. So over here we have a Clutch Masters FX250. It's an aggressive clutch that can hold a good amount of power, but it's pretty street friendly. That's because it's got a hybrid clutch disc. On one side it's like this, on one side it's like that. It's a sprung clutch disc. This is the exact same clutch I ended up going with in the Honda Fit, and it was awesome. It was heavy, but it engaged smoothly, and it was awesome. In addition to that, we have a very lightweight flywheel. That's important because this car currently has a dual mass flywheel, which A, is really heavy, and B, causes things like rev hang and just not very good driving characteristics. This will fix that. Now, in addition to the clutch, we have new upgraded motor mounts. Now, I've been seeing your guys' comments. Buy a daily, mod the hell out of it, no longer a daily. Here we go, turning a daily into an unreliable mess. Up to this point, you guys were entirely wrong. This half of the table is the first mods that start having some consequences. When will you learn? Now, I maintain that even with all this stuff, it's gonna be a great daily, but these things do have some drawbacks. These are innovative mounts. I put them on my Fit and I hated my life. But that's because it was a Honda Fit with a small 4-cylinder that's not balanced well. This is a Honda Accord, built much better, a very smooth running V6, a lot more sound editing, a lot more luxury on the inside. So I'm pretty certain that these motor mounts aren't gonna be too detrimental to the comfort of the car, and they're going to really improve shifting feel, wheel hop, power delivery. Motor mounts are one of the best mods you can do to make your engine just feel better in every single way. And then last but not least, we have a adjustable hybrid racing short shifter. This obviously will make the shifters shorter. It'll make them feel much better. It's also gonna put the shift arm much closer to the steering wheel. And in addition to that, we have hybrid racing shifter cables to replace the old worn out, loose and sloppy factory shifter cables. This car is gonna feel crazy after all this, and I cannot be more excited. But the first thing we gotta do is take it apart. So we've made some good progress on getting this transmission out. Battery tray is out, the clutch hydraulics are out, the starter is out, and all the wiring has been kind of moved up and off the transmission. Pretty much the only thing that is left on top of the transmission are those shifter cables right there. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those now. So now we're gonna lift the car up and work on the axles and then start doing the bell housing bolts. All right, well, both of the axles are now removed, This passenger side one with the half shaft was a huge pain in the butt because it's so close to this cat and to the engine block. Had to remove the J-pipe and the rest of the exhaust, which kind of have to anyway to get the heat shield down and the cables out, but it doesn't mean it wasn't annoying. And we are gonna go ahead and replace these axles because they're causing a bit of a vibration under acceleration. You can kind of see there's a good amount of play in that middle bearing. So all new half shafts and axles coming soon, but for now, we're gonna start unbolting this trans. So, you know, lots of little bell housing bolts, couple of little weird mount things right down here and up on top, and then hopefully we can slide her out. That's all I can reach from down here. So I gotta remove this motor mount. Voila, motor mount. Cracked her loose, now I gotta get her out. Okay, there we go. This is definitely not possible with this thing in here, is it? Bro, I don't know how you get that out. Yeah, so I guess after looking online, two ways to do it: either remove the engine and transmission altogether or unbolt the entire subframe and suspension. But that's also connected to the engine, so that might be a little tricky, but I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. Honda, bro, come on. What were you thinking? After finagling with it, I feel like they could have just moved the subframe down a couple inches over in that area and boom, you'd be all good. This is an uncommon Honda L, but it's been a long day. I'm kind of miserable. I'm not doing this today, so I'm gonna come back tomorrow and I guess drop the entire fucking front end. But real quick, I wanna take a moment to talk about one of my favorite products and sponsors ever, ProClip USA. Now, ProClip USA is a company that makes high quality, sturdy, vehicle-specific two-piece phone mounts. Let me explain. The first part is the mounting base, which is designed for your specific year, make, and model. This part easily clips somewhere in your interior, whether that's a seam on your dashboard, your A-pillar, it just clips in, hence the name. No disassembly of your dash or interior required, no screws into your interior, clips in. Usually there's some double-sided tape, so it's removable, but it's super sturdy. The second part is the actual phone holder, and they have all sorts of different options. They've got wireless charging, wired charging, which I personally love because it prevents your phone from overheating in the sun. They have different mounts for different size phone cases or no phone case, different mounts for all different types of phones, and they even have some MagSafe stuff. Now that second part, the phone holder, screws on to the base mount, and then you have your complete ProClip. Now all their stuff is made from machined ABS plastic, not injected molded, not flimsy. This phone mount will hold up to launches, to hard braking, to track days. Your phone's never gonna fall off when you're hooning your car. It's not gonna distract you by braking or you having to readjust it constantly. It's always solid and it always works. So if you guys are interested in upgrading your phone mount today, you can get 50% off ProClip USA custom car phone mounts using my code Gingium. Huge thank you to ProClip for sponsoring this video and for making an awesome phone mount. I love them and I'm never gonna own a car that doesn't have them. Let's get back to the Accord. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and I guess drop the entire fucking front end. But before I resorted to that, I wanted to try one thing. See, I was able to make a decent amount of room between the engine and the trans, possibly enough to get the old clutch and flywheel out and the new clutch and flywheel in. Ow, that hurt. God damn, that's heavy. Holy shit. Jesus fucking hell. So everything is out using this very interesting strategy. Not a whole lot of space, but it was possible. I don't know if it's possible to get it back in because we have to align the clutch and whatnot. But this right here is the dual mass flywheel. So as you can see, it's actually two separate pieces. And this thing can move around. Definitely some hot spots on the clutch and such, but I don't think this is the original clutch. It looks in relatively okay shape. If this was the original clutch, you gotta give Honda a raise. I don't have a scale here, but that's pretty freaking heavy. And this, this has got to be less than half the weight. That's crazy. Now, while we have some room there, I'm gonna go ahead and put the new throwout bearing in that Clutch Masters provides. Oh yeah, very nice, very smooth. Throwout bearings are not supposed to be fidget toys. They're supposed to be nice and crisp like that. As you can see, I managed to get the clutch in there. One problem, I was not able to use the alignment tool. There was no way to get the alignment tool through the clutch, into the flywheel, into the pilot bearing with the trans right there. Because the trans is close enough where the input shaft is still kind of in the center of the clutch. So I eyeballed it. I kind of put the clutch disc in there, lightly tightened the pressure plate so I could still move the clutch disc around, but it would stay. And then I kept spinning it, moving it, spinning it, moving it until it looked like it was centered. We're gonna give it one shot. I'm gonna try to get the trans on. If I can't get it on, I just wasted all this time, but at least I tried. At this point, it probably would have been quicker just to drop the subframe, but a lot more work, especially putting it back together. I think we got it. Just the dowel pins, I think, that are struggling now. You see that, guys? That's a transmission attached to a J-series engine. Slid right in, clutch was aligned perfectly. Had little troubles getting over the dowel pins, a little dirty. The back of my head hurts really bad. I need to get like a pillow. Oh, I guess, you know, creepers have that, so I could have just used my creeper, but you know. Now, I've learned one other thing from doing clutches. As soon as you get the trans put back together, bleed the clutch. Make sure it feels right. Because let me tell you, nothing worse than getting everything put back together, trying to bleed the clutch, and then it doesn't work. Got a nice stainless steel flex line to replace it. So it looks like the slave cylinder kind of blocks the front motor mount, so we're gonna go ahead and put in our first upgraded motor mount. Ah, very nice, very nice. Clutch line connected, motor mount in, slave cylinder in, connected, and I just bled it using a jack handle on the clutch pedal like that. And sure enough, it feels very nice. Nice and firm, gets firm immediately. And not too heavy. I mean, you can see I'm just doing it with one arm, so that's perfect. Shout out to Clutch Masters for making awesome clutches. They make a whole bunch of different clutches for a whole bunch of different cars, a lot of different stages to match every power you could possibly want. And now I have a coupon code for you guys with them. If you use code Gingium at Clutch Masters, you'll get $50 off. But now we're ready to continue. I think the next important thing is the motor mounts. God damn! Motor mounts are in, all around, and they're tightened up. Coolant all in my, that's gross. Coolant in my camera. This poor thing has been to hell and back. Anyway, the last thing to do is to go ahead and remove the factory shifter and remove the factory shifter cables. And heck, let's just put the new stuff in right away. Once the cables are in, then we can reassemble the engine bay and hopefully drive this thing. So the factory shifter is removed. Look at that big plastic hunk of junk right there. And then the old cables are also removed. Here we go. Again, more plastic. And over here, just like rubber bushings. We're switching that up with Heim joints, thicker cable diameter, solid aluminum. Much nicer cables overall. I went ahead and swapped over the grommets from the old cables. Now we're ready to put the new cables in, and then we can work on getting that new shifter in. But real quick, I wanted to show you guys some of the features of this shifter. For one, both throws are individually adjustable. There's two settings, so you can either make it longer or shorter. It comes on the shorter setting, and pretty much you can swap those holes, and that will adjust how far the throw is. It's got an adjustable height shifter and an adjustable location shifter. So you can offset it slightly towards the steering wheel, or slightly back, or slightly forward, and you can change the height. I think the plan is to keep all the throw settings at the shortest and then make the shifter the tallest. I really like having a shifter that's tall right next to the steering wheel, but I also like having a shifter that is as short throw as possible. And of course, it's just made out of a nice metal frame. Now, if you guys have a Honda, check out Hybrid Racing. They've got all sorts of shifters and parts for all sorts of Hondas. I ran their short shifter in the Fit. I loved it. I'm sure I'm going to love this. Super, super high quality parts. Let's get this stuff in. Oh, that's so good. So there you go. Even fits under the factory shift stuff. So that's sweet. But let's compare that to the stock shifter. I did 3 separate tests. For one is how much play it has in gear. See that? This is the play it's got in gear now. Second is how close it is to the steering wheel. So how far do I have to move my hand off the steering wheel to shift? It's about 25 centimeters. 20.5 centimeters to the steering wheel, 4.5 centimeters closer. And then of course, the last thing is the length of the throw, both forward and backwards and side to side. So I'm gonna put it in 3rd gear, 12, and then put it in 4th gear, 22. So that is about a 10 centimeter throw. 11, 17. So that is now a 5 centimeter throw. And this is at its longest or tallest setting, so you could make it shorter. Side to side is gonna be a little harder to measure, but I'm gonna do this, set this up right there. I'd say that's about 8 centimeters. And now it's about 5 centimeters side to side. So good. And just the, ooh, just like thunk, thunk. So good. It's not so good as where I parked. Makes it impossible to get out of this dang thing. So now I pretty much just have to reassemble this, put the starter in, redo all the wiring, fix a couple of coolant leaks I generated, and put the battery back in. And now I have some amazing import direct axles. Not the nicest piece of equipment, but lifetime warranty, and it's gonna be better than the old sloppy worn out axles. Very good. I love when new parts just slide right in. Now Honda is a goat for this. They put their fill port on top of the transmission. So instead of having to be under the car for 30 minutes pumping a little pump over and over again, you can just pour it down a funnel. So good. Got some genuine Honda manual transmission fluid. I guess the one thing about it being on top is that you can overfill it probably, like I kind of just did. It's not dummy proof, unlike other stuff. And last but not least, I think now we can do some testing. See how rough these motor mounts really are, eh? You know, motor mounts don't feel too bad. The clutch feels light, too. Might need some more bleeding / adjusting. I think this was a huge success. I'm gonna shut it off. Don't wanna get too hot before we bleed the clutch more. So yeah, I'll go ahead and bleed the clutch a little bit more, make sure that's all good, and then we can continue. First things first, now that it's warmed up a bit. Bro, the throttle response is so much better. At idle, you can feel a little bit more vibrations, but it's not bad by any means. If fucking traffic would ever let up, maybe I would actually be able to test the clutch. Wow. The clutch is extremely smooth. Oh, the shifter is so short. Oh, what is up with that? That feels so weird. I probably shouldn't be beating on this clutch. It literally has like 3 miles on it, but you know what? Whatever. It's crazy. It feels like the stock clutch, and it's a stage 2.5. Which just goes to show how much nicer it is to have a bigger engine with a bigger transmission. You don't need things to be as heavy and stiff to hold power. And you know what? The car kind of almost sounds a little different too right now. Oh, I'm sorry, clutch, I'm sorry. Oh, it feels so good. I'm already getting used to it too. At first, this shifter being so short was like weird, but I'm already loving it. Oh my goodness. It's so much easier to rev match and downshift and accelerate smoother, which is almost counterintuitive. You think of things being stiffer, it'd be harder. But it actually makes it easier because it's more predictable. It doesn't have any like random slop that the stock stuff does. I'm gonna go ahead and just put some miles on this thing, drive it around, try to break this clutch in a bit more without beating on it, because tomorrow is a big day. But guys, that is going to be it for this video. This car is now a completely transformed car from when we first got it. Every single way, it is better. It does not feel like the same car anymore. Now, I know you probably wanted to see a little more testing of the clutch, the motor mounts, the shifter, but in the next video, we're taking this thing to the track and we're gonna test everything. The wheels and tires and brakes, suspension, drivetrain. We're gonna see how good this thing is. Maybe, just maybe, we can win the event. And of course, if you want to watch that video early, you can head over to Patreon, get early access to videos and access to exclusive content. But huge thank you to Clutch Masters for the clutch, Hybrid Racing for the shifter and the shifter cables. Make sure to check out all those companies and support them because they made this video possible. Also, thank you to ProClip for sponsoring this video. But that's it. Thank you all so much. See you next time.